What is a survival myth that is completely wrong and could get you killed? Rescue breaths are wildly overrated in most movies and TV shows. You'll see someone in cardiac arrest, and the rescuer will stop giving compressions and focus on breathing into a person's ears, mouth and blammo. Awake, alert, alive. Nope, don't do that. Your body does store a fairly decent amount of oxygen in its blood at all times. If someone in front of you ODs and their mouth is covered with saliva, vomit, or someone collapses in front of you with a suspected cardiac arrest, your plan of action is twofold. 1. Are they breathing? Do they have a pulse? This is easy to duck up, especially in a moment of panic. My rule, as an EMS provider, is that if you don't feel it in 10 seconds, it's not there. Start compressions. If they are not in cardiac arrest, they will let your ass know, and the law covers you under Good Samaritan clauses in most of these cases. 2. If you are the only person attending to this body, do not stop and give rescue breaths if help is on the way and will be there soon. It takes about 4-7 decent compressions to get blood recirculating in the body after stopping to give mouth to mouth. That's a lot of blood, carrying a lot of vital oxygen reserves that aren't making it to the brain. Obviously, if you're a long way out from help, and you feel safe to do so, give rescue breaths. But it should never be priority number 1. BTW, if you hear ribs crack, make a face, make vomit noises if you have to. Tell the person their bones are ducking, grossing you out, but don't stop compressions. Because what are compressions? That's right, they are number ducking. 1. Follow flying birds to find water. They can simply be flying to spend a night anywhere, so we can't rely on them. The first mistake is to look for food and water first before having a shelter up to keep yourself dry and warm. Edit. When I say shelter first, it includes having a fire too, which I forgot to mention. When you are wet and exposed to the elements, your core body temperature can drop and you can get hypothermia if it gets too cold, and you would burn more calories than necessary. A big reason to building a shelter too is to also keep yourself off the ground, because the ground is an infinite heat sink, which means you lose your body heat way faster than you would think and will be more exposed to the cold elements. Guys, yes, it's good to be near a water source, but remember that it's always colder around rivers, streams, lakes, and oceans. Make sure you are able to easily gather shelter fire material within the area, plus finding a prime location to set up shelter. I feel like a book RN. Thanks for the silver. You do not need to wait 24 hours to report a missing person. If you think someone is missing, report it as such. The faster a missing person report is filed, the greater the chance the person will be found. Removing a bullet is more dangerous than leaving it in. Trying to remove it can tear vital organs. It can be pushed in even deeper, or removing it can cause the person to bleed out. If you ever find yourself in snake country, make as much noise as possible. Most people want to avoid snakes, so stay quiet, but they are more scared of you than you are of them. Talk loudly, stomp, but obviously keep an eye and ear out for any fellas who don't want you to be there. Source: Australian. Sucking a snake bite. It will often make it worse. If you have to forage for food, avoid mushrooms entirely. Odds are so slim you will find an edible kind that you're much better off looking for things like nuts, seeds, and berries. Edit. This is not a myth. This is the truth. You can hydrate from soda. If that's all you have, drink it. Don't eat snow to stay hydrated if you're in a winter survival situation. Losing the heat to the snow while eating it is more dangerous than dehydration. Heat it up or let it melt in a container first to lose less heat. One I know of is the myth that you can drink water from a cactus. I heard it false, and you can only drink from a small minority of cacti without having certain health consequences I am not aware of. Closest I can think of is brace yourself if you are about to get in an accident. Try to go limp. You are more likely to walk away with minor injuries if you go limp. That's how drunk drivers survive crashes. Herbivorous animals are friendly and peaceful, so you are safe being around them, and their presence will show you where food is. Seriously, everything from cows to deer can and will kill you if you make it angry. It is usually a good idea if you are in the wilds not to get near any large wild animal, but herbivores can often be even more aggressive than the predators. If you get stabbed with anything, Don't pull it out since it could be the thing that preventing you from bleeding out. Instead immobilize it and go to the hospital where they can stop the bleeding when they remove the object. Cotton wicks moisture. Cotton is probably the worst material to wear in an outdoor survival situation because it holds moisture and in doing so loses its ability to keep you warm. Drinking alcohol to stay warm. You sweat. Your blood will rush to your skin and you will freeze-die much faster. Edit. People seem curious about this. Here is a good link. Capital L. Edit 2. As suggested by another editor. Edit 3. Actual Mythbusters link provided by another redditor. TL. Doctor, if done right, a tourniquet should hurt like a methodica and you're going to want to loosen it, but in the words of Egon Spengler, it would be bad. Gradually loosening an applied tourniquet over time is a thing I still see in first aid training videos for some reason. Don't do that. Once a tourniquet is on, remember, and mark the person if you can, what time it was applied and leave the rest to doctors in a stable environment. Loosening a tourniquet may result in blood loss returning, which requires retightening it. Tightening loosening repeatedly may cause, on top of additional blood loss, blood to pool up inside the limb, which can cause even more damage. Edit. It's going to take over 2 hours for muscle nerve damage to start occurring and about 6 until everything is dead and needing an amputation. Many of folks have said that recent advances have prolonged that time. I can't find a source to validate that, but it seems believable. Would like one if anybody has one, as TQ use has heavily increased in the military and civilian world the past 15 years thanks to the cat, so I'm guessing surgeons have worked with them more. This much more recent study cites that most amputations are due to the injuries sustained, not tourniquet use. More than a multicenter study demonstrated 88% effectiveness in pre-hospital tourniquet application with significantly lower mortality and amputation rates than in American military experience. More than Craig et al.'s military cohort had a 35% amputation rate, with several civilian series having a frequency of 17% to 29%. More than theorized that injury severity was critical in the decision to amputate than the presence of a tourniquet. A significant number of the initial amputations had mangled, nearly amputated arms or legs from high-speed motorcycle or all-terrain vehicle crash. Despite the higher rate of initial amputation, there was no increase in morbidity, mortality, or length of stay in TQ plus patients. Old source edit. More than continuous application for longer than 2H can result in permanent nerve injury, muscle injury, including contractures, rhabdomyolysis and compartment syndrome, vascular injury and skin necrosis. 8 muscle damage is nearly complete by 6 hours, with likely required amputation. Numerous studies have been performed to determine the maximum duration of tourniquet use before complications. The general conclusion is that a tourniquet can be left in place for 2H with little risk of permanent ischemic injury. More than a policy of periodic loosening of a tourniquet in an attempt to reduce limb ischemia has often led to incremental exsanguination and death. 12. I can think of multiple. Basic wilderness survival is required to be taught where I live. Don't drink your pee if you're thirsty. It's high in salt and will make you more dehydrated, just like ocean water. Eating snow when you're thirsty is also bad. It lowers your core temperature and you can become hypothermic. Don't play dead with all bears. Depends on the bear, some will definitely duck your up if you play dead. Grizzly bears stand your ground and back up slowly. If it becomes irritated, get into the fetal position and cover your neck and play dead. Black bears throw rocks and sticks at it and make a lot of noise. From my experience, black bears are skittish and run away. Polar bears back away slowly to safety. If they attack prey, they kill you fast. Defend yourself by any means necessary. Remember to always carry bear spray or a gun if you're in bear country. Edit. Thank your silver, kind stranger. Don't stand underneath doorways in case of earthquakes. Doors and door frames are just not made the same anymore, so you're more likely to sustain more serious injuries if you do. You're better off staying hidden underneath a desk or table. Apparently some people think the best way to survive a wolf attack is to bend down and show the wolf you're submissive towards him and pose as no threat. If you do this, you're dead. The wolf will 100% kill you. Your best bet is to walk away without turning your backs on them, maintaining eye contact the whole way. If you look away or turn your back, the wolf's killer instinct will kick in and it'll kill you. Don't make a lot of noise and aggressive movements towards a wolf the same way you do to a black bear, because most likely it'll be seen as a challenge, not a threat. Sticking your finger up a dog's bum. I've read this a few times. Not a good idea. Best way to deal with a dog attack is to try to move away slowly, sideways with your arms at your sides so that you're not threatening. Don't look at the eyes and don't smile. Both are seen as a challenge. Don't run away. The dog will instinctively chase you. Get up high if you can. Dogs can't climb very well if it hits the fan. Do the opposite of looking unthreatening. Stand tall with your arms in the air and growl or roar. If there's something nearby, throw it at the dog to make it think twice. Wrap clothing around your arm to hand to the dog should it go in for a bite. You're pretty much guaranteed to be bit, so make it in a place that is less important and less likely to bleed out. Don't lose your footing or fall to the ground. You'll be toast. Don't pull away from the dog if it has bitten you. This will cause more damage. Once the dog has bitten you, it probably won't let go. Aim to kill or maim the dog. Fingers in the eyes are good. Jumping on the dog with all your body weight is better. If you break their ribs, they will probably give up. Staying away from aggressive dogs is your best bet. Trying to outrun a tornado is about the worst possible thing you can do in a tornado situation. Take shelter, get underground, go into an interior room, lay in a ditch while covering your head if you have to. Tornadoes are basically like 3-year-olds throwing temper tantrums, except instead of toys it's cars, buses and trains they're throwing around, but also toys too, which they can throw hard enough to literally pass through your body. A vehicle of any kind is about the last place you want to be when a tornado comes through. Edit. And sure enough, I've got people telling me that, nut up, you totally can outrun a tornado because storm chasers do it all the time and tornadoes only move like 30 miles per hour, which is objectively false. Their top speed is more like 70 mph. But don't listen to a random redditor like me. Here's what the CDC has to say about it. If you are in a car, do not try to outrun a tornado, but instead find the nearest sturdy building. And the NOAA has this to say: vehicles are extremely risky in a tornado. There is no safe option when caught in a tornado in a car, just slightly less dangerous ones. If the tornado is visible, far away, and the traffic is light, you may be able to drive out of its path by moving at right angles to the tornado. Seek shelter in a sturdy building, or underground if possible. I hope discerning redditors will work out that what they're advising is there is not to try to outrun a tornado, but that you don't need to get out of your vehicle if you are very far away from one. And the National Weather Service, being in a vehicle during a tornado is not safe. The best course of action is to drive to the closest shelter. If you are unable to make it to a safe shelter, either get down in your car and cover your head, or abandon your car and seek shelter in a low-lying area such as a ditch or ravine. So, in short, never try to outrun a tornado, and anyone who ever tells you otherwise is objectively wrong and spreading dangerous misinformation. End of discussion. Punch a shark in the nose. The YouTube videos on how to unarm an attacker from close range. You'll die before you can yell yee-haw. That you can eat what animals eat. Not true. Animals have different digestion systems that aren't the same as humans. It won't kill you, but don't pee on a jellyfish sting. It will actually release more of the toxin. A lot of Southeast Asians believe going from heat to aircon, jumping in a swimming pool on a hot day, or even fans will kill you. So many deaths happen every year because people are afraid of being shocked to death from going from hot to cold too quickly. One myth I have heard was that moss only grows on the north side of trees. This of course is false. I watch a lot of fight videos on subs like our street fights and our fight porn, and one of two things pretty much always happens when someone gets knocked out. Either their friends come and try to pick them up, shake them, and slap them on the face to regain consciousness, or they are left there on their back while people film and laugh and say, "You got knocked the duck out." These are both bad things to do because that person has just suffered possible serious trauma to their head, especially if they smacked it on the pavement when they came down. So shaking them awake is not a great thing to do. It might seem like leaving them be and recover on their own is a better idea, but it's not always, because they run the risk of choking on their tongue. The best thing to do is put them in the recovery position, which will make sure they don't have problems breathing until they regain their bearings, and if they don't after a while, it's a safe way for them to be until medical help comes. You cannot drive big boulders, and the pioneers have in fact not been riding those babies for miles. Not quite a survival myth, but interesting nonetheless. Paradoxical undressing. It is when you are hypothermic but still remove your clothes. Explains why dead people are sometimes found naked out in snowy ranges. It is usually during the final stages of hypothermia, and the theory is that your blood vessels give up on constricting blood flow to your skin peripheries, so you suddenly feel super warm and remove all your clothes, which in turn causes you to die quicker. If you try jumping in a malfunctioning falling elevator, at the very second it smashes into the ground, aren't you still dead? Wear a seatbelt. There's myths about it being bad if you go into a lake or there's a fire, but 1, that is an incredibly tiny proportion of car crashes, and 2, if you're in that situation, you're far more likely to be knocked out and die of inaction if you're not wearing a seatbelt. I know this is a mundane tip, but you're far more likely to be in a life-threatening car crash than be stabbed or be in a falling elevator. Wear a seatbelt. It's not advised to wring out animal it and drink the fluid. Just drink the water that the camera crew has with them instead. More than the more you know. Not quite as sexy and interesting as the rest of these, but if you're walking alone at night, putting a key between each finger, with the thought that you can punch someone and they'll be impaled by 3 keys, is useless. You're much more likely to hurt the webbing on your fingers, since the grip you have on each key will be really weak. Instead, put a single key between your thumb and forefinger, parallel to your thumb, and make a fist. This still isn't a great defense, but it is an improvement over simply a fist. Also, don't try to kick a man in the crotch unless you have an amazing shot, in which case, you're probably better off running anyway. If you miss or don't kick hard enough, both of which are more likely in the case when you're likely panicking, you're just going to cause mild discomfort and piss him off even more. Drawing a perfect circle on the ground beneath you will protect you from a sea bear attack. That the first thing you should do when ending up in a survival situation is to look for food or water. On average, you can survive 3 weeks without food and 3 days without water. Instead, you first need to pay attention to your attitude. Panicking and using a negative mindset will get you killed. Being positive and celebrating your survival will help you make it out alive. Curing an eye infection with your urine is dangerous. Let me repeat that. Do not under any circumstances put your urine in your eyes. Head to the doctor. Even waiting it out is better. You can last 3 weeks without food, 3 days without water, 3 hours without shelter, in harsh conditions, 3 minutes without air, and 3 seconds being kissed by your Aunt Kathy. Edit. Just for those of you saying that it's possible to last longer. Yes. You could last longer in a controlled environment, but this would come in use in a survival situation, which means you would be burning upwards of 1,500 calories a day just trying to build shelter, stay alive. It's more of a broad outline of where your priorities should be, and it's easy to remember. Most of the Bear Grylls does. Don't put severed parts on ice. It'll practically give the dead tissue frostbite, thus making it near impossible to reattach. Do not play dead with all animals. Coming from a town at the base of the Rocky Mountains, with grizzly bears play dead. Black bears are actually not aggressive unless you threaten them, so if you see a black bear with their baby or a baby black bear, calmly walk out of there and you should be fine. But with a mountain lion, if you turn your back or play dead, your throat is gonna get ripped out. Do not run though. You cannot and will not outrun it. Get very big and very loud and fight back at all costs. Also a little tip, if you're about to get attacked by a shark, swim directly at it. You're probably about to die. Might as well give it your best shot. Sharks don't want to fight. They are curious as to what you are and they want to nibble on you. Of course, to a human a nibble means being chopped in half. Anyways, if a shark senses you are a threat, it will possibly retreat as it does not want to fight and would rather catch an easy bite to eat. If it does attack you, that's when you try and go for the eyes. If you input your PIN number backwards in an ATM, it will withdraw money, but it will be stuck, and the police will be notified in the event of a robbery. It's completely false and you could get killed or seriously hurt if you play dumb like you don't know your PIN. If you ever fall off a ship ferry at sea and were lucky enough to be spotted, don't try to swim your way to safety. The more you try to swim, the lesser the chances of survival. Just try to keep afloat and conserve energy and body heat while rescue team do what they're supposed to. Unless you are in hypothermic waters, the best bet always is to stay afloat without trying to swim to somewhere. This information about falling overboard, hypothermia and conditions, survival at sea etc. are based on my own experience of 12 years sailing on merchant ship. Example. According to Wikipedia, don't ration your water. If you have bottled water with you, you should not ration it. Instead, drink it all at once. Some people have been found dead with water remaining in their bottle. Do not pull out knives. You're likelier to die from the knife being removed than letting it in. It's the only thing keeping your wound closed. In opposition, throwing knives rarely, if ever, instant kill. It's the pulling out that makes the victim bleed out. Shoot yourself once a day to build your immunity to bullets. If a diabetic is having a hypo and becomes unconscious, do not give them insulin. They need to get their blood sugar up, and insulin does literally the opposite. FK the media for always portraying diabetics as needing an injection to save their lives. One of the more common examples of these misconceptions would be to jump when an elevator is falling. You're more likely to survive the crash if you lay spread eagle on the bottom of the elevator instead of jumping. Another one. Poison ivy isn't just washed off with water and soap. It almost leaves a sap-like residue on your skin. Wash the area and wipe off the residue, never reusing the same part of the cloth. Imagine wiping grease off of your skin. It's much like the same thing. You can avoid some nasty rashes and immune responses if you do it correctly. Can make a huge difference outdoors. Tell me the truth, and I won't get mad. This thread is like a massage for me. So many correct things in one place, and on Reddit no less. Punch a shark in the nose. Technically, yes, striking a shark in the nose would disorient it, but you're far more likely to miss the nose and fling your arm directly into the shark's mouth. Not ideal. But you can't just punch things. It's not Minecraft. There was a bullet article floating around on Facebook a few years ago that stated that if you're having a heart attack you can stop it immediately by taking a spoon of cayenne pepper. It was reported to literally stop a heart attack immediately. The only outcome of trying this is that you'll be choking on a mouthful of cayenne pepper whilst you die from a heart attack. Do not take cayenne pepper. Call a bloody ambulance. That's what we're for. I was considering linking a site I found that made this argument, but then I reconsidered because I didn't want to be inadvertently spreading false and harmful information. You can Google it if you're that interested in seeing the bullet for yourself. One extract from the page I found. More than cayenne is also useful in boosting the heart rate as it strengthens the pulse. Literally the opposite of what you want to do in a heart attack. Do not raise the patient's heart rate. Starting by punching wood. Sucking snake venom out of a bite wound. Not walking under trees in Australia. Drop bears will still hunt you down and kill you. Tourists beware. Wolf semen is not nutritious. It's a lie. In CPR, mouth to mouth isn't really a thing anymore. Just focus on getting their heart beating and then the circulatory and respiratory system will kick in. There's no point in giving someone mouth to mouth if they can't transport that oxygen anywhere. Trust the Aussies when it comes to snake bites, and the Americans when it comes to bullet wounds. Hiding under a bridge if you're caught on the road in a tornado. The concrete over your head is no protection. The winds will channel through like a wind tunnel and blow you right out to your death. Hide in a ditch instead, against your instinct to not be under a solid structure that looks more reassuring. But the winds will blow over you instead of at you, hopefully. This is my biggest beef with the movie Man of Steel. I hope nobody died because they saw Park Kent telling people to get under a bridge for safety and thought it was a good idea. Don't do it. You'll die. Don't run into a body of water to escape a lion or jaguar attack because the hippopotami are more likely to kill you instead. All the nonsense taught by self-defense courses. How they make it seem like everything is a fair fight.